There is a planet in our solar system that should have become another Earth. It formed from the same cosmic material. It is nearly the same size, nearly the same mass. And for decades, scientists called it Earth's twin. But today, Venus is the most hostile planet in the solar system. If you stood on its surface, you wouldn't survive more than a few moments. The air is toxic, the pressure is crushing, and the temperature is hot enough to melt lead. Somewhere in its distant past, something went horribly wrong. A planet that may once have looked like Earth transformed into a world of fire, poison, and eternal destruction. And the most terrifying part? What happened to Venus may reveal a dark future that scientists hope Earth never experiences. This is the story of Earth's twin, the planet that became hell. But before we can understand how Venus became a nightmare, we need to see what it's actually like to stand on its surface. And the reality is far worse than most people imagine. If Venus is Earth's twin, why is it the most dangerous planet in the solar system? The answer begins with its atmosphere. On Earth, the air around us is mostly nitrogen and oxygen. On Venus, the atmosphere is almost entirely carbon dioxide, and it is incredibly thick. The pressure on the surface is about 90 times greater than Earth's. Imagine standing nearly 1 kilometer beneath the ocean. That crushing force is what Venus feels like everywhere. But the pressure isn't the worst part. The temperature on Venus reaches nearly 465 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to melt lead. Hot enough to destroy most spacecraft. Hot enough to turn the surface into a furnace that never cools. Above the planet, massive clouds drift through the atmosphere. But these are not clouds of water. They are clouds of sulfuric acid. Acid rain forms high above the surface. Yet the planet is so hot that the rain evaporates before it ever touches the ground. Every part of Venus seems designed to destroy life. The air is poison. The sky rains acid. And the ground burns hotter than an oven. But Venus was not always like this. Long ago, this planet may have looked very different. And somewhere in its past, everything changed. Venus may look like a world that was born dead, but scientists believe something far more disturbing. There is growing evidence that Venus may once have had oceans, and perhaps conditions similar to Earth itself. So what transformed an Earth-like world into a planetary hellscape? That mystery begins billions of years ago. Today, Venus is a world of fire, but billions of years ago, it may have looked very different. Scientists believe early Venus could have had vast oceans, rivers, clouds, and temperatures much closer to Earth's. For a time, the two planets may have been remarkably similar. But Venus was slightly closer to the Sun, and that small difference may have changed everything. As the planet warmed, more water evaporated into the atmosphere. Water vapor trapped additional heat, which caused even more evaporation. The cycle continued, temperatures rose, oceans disappeared, and the atmosphere grew thicker and thicker. Scientists call this process a runaway greenhouse effect. Once it began, there was no stopping it. Venus crossed a line that Earth never crossed. Its oceans vanished, its surface baked, and its atmosphere transformed into the crushing blanket of carbon dioxide we see today. A world that may once have been habitable became one of the most hostile places in the solar system. And the evidence of that ancient catastrophe may still be visible today.
But even after Venus became hell, humanity still wanted to visit it. And what happened when we finally landed there was unbelievable. By the 1960s, humanity had begun exploring the solar system, and Venus became one of the most important targets. Scientists wanted answers. What was hidden beneath those thick clouds? What did the surface actually look like? The Soviet Union launched a series of spacecraft known as the Venera missions. Many failed. Some were destroyed before they could reach the planet. Others were crushed by the atmosphere, but eventually, one made it through. In 1970, Venera 7 became the first spacecraft to successfully land on another planet. For a few brief moments, humanity was standing on Venus. Then the planet fought back. Extreme heat, crushing pressure, a toxic atmosphere. The conditions were so brutal that most Venera probes survived only minutes after landing. Yet before they died, they sent something extraordinary. The first photographs ever taken from the surface of Venus. What they revealed looked like another world. A barren landscape, scattered rocks, an orange sky, a place completely unlike Earth. The Venera missions proved something remarkable. Venus could be reached, but surviving there was another challenge entirely. If the surface of Venus is so deadly, why do scientists still believe humans could live there? The answer isn't on the ground. It's high above the clouds. At first glance, the idea of living on Venus sounds impossible. The surface is hot enough to melt lead, the atmosphere can crush spacecraft, and acid clouds fill the sky. But scientists discovered something surprising. About 50 kilometers above the surface, Venus becomes far less hostile. The temperature drops dramatically. The atmospheric pressure becomes similar to Earth's. And for the first time, human survival becomes possible. Instead of building cities on the ground, researchers have proposed floating cities in the Venusian sky. Massive habitats suspended above the clouds, drifting through one of the strangest environments in the solar system. NASA even studied concepts for future missions that could operate in this region. Because high above the hellish surface, conditions are surprisingly comfortable. In some ways, more Earth-like than the surface of Mars. Imagine looking down through the clouds, knowing a deadly world exists below, while an entire human civilization floats safely above it. It sounds like science fiction, but it may become one of humanity's most realistic paths to living on another planet. But Venus may be more than a future home. It may be a warning, because what happened there could reveal something terrifying about Earth's future. Venus is often called Earth's twin. But perhaps that's what makes it so terrifying. Because Venus wasn't born as a world of fire. It became one. Somewhere in its past, a chain of events transformed a potentially habitable planet into a planetary nightmare. Its oceans disappeared. Its atmosphere spiraled out of control, and its surface became one of the most hostile places in the solar system. Today, scientists study Venus not only to understand its history,
but to better understand our own. The story of Venus reminds us that planets can change dramatically, permanently, and sometimes in ways that are impossible to reverse. Yet Venus is also a symbol of discovery, a world that challenged every spacecraft we sent, a planet that continues to surprise scientists, and a place that may one day host floating cities above its toxic clouds. The more we learn about Venus, the more it teaches us about Earth, about climate, about planetary evolution, and about how fragile a habitable world can be. Because Venus is not just another planet. It is a glimpse into an alternate future, a world where everything went wrong, a warning written across an entire planet. And perhaps the greatest lesson Venus offers is this: the universe is filled with worlds unlike our own. But sometimes the most fascinating mysteries are the ones that look almost familiar. Would you live in a floating city above Venus, knowing that a hellscape exists beneath your feet? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoy cosmic mysteries, space exploration, and the hidden secrets of the universe, subscribe to Into the Cosmos, because out there, the next mystery is already waiting.